Welcome to Five Guys, Movies, and Fries. This is a film discussion podcast. We discuss the entire movie, spoiler warning. If you like the podcast, like, comment, and subscribe.
My name is Nacula.
My name is Jeff.
My name is Will.
And my name is Joe. So the movie that we're talking about today is called It Happened One Night, directed by Frank Capra, who you may know went on to direct It's a Wonderful Life, and it's from 1934. So this is officially the oldest movie we've talked about.
You did that just to one-up my my 1940s
Yeah.
Deep Baghdad, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think this is a good movie to talk about. I think it's great. I think this movie it's basically just a build up to a sex joke at the end. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah. The moral of the story is every good story ends with a sex joke.
I want to know what they're doing with that trumpet at the end.
Well, nobody's lips were on it, so...
Yeah, no visual context, so we can just use our imagination.
You never see how it makes the sound. You know?
Yeah.
Contrary to the title of this movie, it happens over several nights. Unless the title is referring to the night they had sex at the end, then it happened one night.
Is it?
It could be. I don't know.
Do we know? I feel like the title refers to the first night they spend together.
Could be.
That's how I'm taking it. But
I think they just didn't put that much thought into it. It's based on a short story called Night Bus, so they changed the title for the movie.
Oh yeah.
And this was never intended to be like a huge successful movie.
Night Bus sounds like a Stephen King novel.
Yeah. It's the bus that kills.
The bus that kills.
Ring the bell for your next stop. ... Hell. Night Bus.
Or else.
Now adapted to a full-length motion picture by Stephen King.
Jeff, you sound like you're recording from Night Bus.
I am recording from Night Bus.
Wheelie, the autobiographical story of the bus from Speed.
Good stuff. Anyways, back to this movie. It stars Clark Gable. May have heard of him. I don't know.
Sounds familiar.
He plays Peter Warren, and Claudette Colbert plays Ellie Andrews. No one else really matters. It's about those two, really. Clark Gable at the time was called the King of Hollywood, or at least after this movie he was. It was the era when you could have a scraggly, wispy mustache and still be the leading attractive man.
He looks hella good with that stash, too, though. He pulls it off so fucking hard.
He kind of does, yeah.
What a handsome motherfucker.
Yeah, this movie's about a wealthy heiress who leaves her father. She's trying to get to New York City to get to her new husband, King Wesley. But she meets a young reporter who takes it upon himself to guide her, protect her, make decisions for her. Then hijinks ensue along the way, and she has to avoid being captured by her father's detectives. You've all seen this story so many times. I'm going to ask you guys about, how influential was this movie, and how is this movie aged? Was it easy or difficult to watch? Later on, I'm going to ask you that. So, like I said, this movie was not a huge success initially. On the first day of filming, Clark Gable said, "All right, let's get this over with." And on the last day of filming, Claudette Colbert called a friend to say, "I just finished the worst movie in the world." Columbia didn't promote this movie because they didn't think it was going to be any good, but it swept the Oscars. It won all 5 categories. Clark Gable won for Best Actor. Claudette Colbert won for Best Actress. Frank Capra, Best Director, Best Script for Robert Riskin, and the guy who wrote Night Bus as well, and it had Best Picture in 1934. Pretty influential. It's kind of the template for rom-coms, especially like love triangle rom-coms. I think the humor is really influential as well. It was obviously probably pretty scandalous at the time. If you didn't know, this movie is technically called a screwball comedy. It's a genre that has gone extinct. They only existed in the 30s and 40s. Someone said a screwball comedy is a sex comedy without the sex. There's like fast pace, overlapping dialogue, farcical situations, double entendres about sex, defying gender norms, cross dressing, clashing social classes, battles of the sexes, women dominating men. It was a very scandalous, influential era of early Hollywood, but nowadays you would just call it a rom-com. One more really interesting point about the background of this movie: this was released just on the cusp of the end of the pre-code era. Do you guys know about the pre-code and the code, the Hays Code?
No, it has something to do with like what's allowed in movies, right?
Exactly, yeah. So there's no rating system. Your movie would either pass or fail the production code administration, and you had to have a document to get theaters to play your movies. Basically, it was the Catholic Church. They lobbied Hollywood to have this censorious institution, and they had the first pick of what can be talked about and what can be shown. Rule number one is you can't say God, Jesus, Lord in an
In vain.
yeah, exactly, in vain. And it obviously you can't have sexual situations. You can't imply homosexuality, interracial love. There's so much shit that you can't do because of this code. But Hollywood found a way to talk about these things without actually talking about them. And this is kind of an example because it's kind of on the cusp of the Hays Code era. That's all I got for the background of this movie. What are your guys' initial thoughts? I want to start with Will.
Ooh. I really liked this movie. I didn't think it was the best of like the older movies that we've seen. But it definitely holds up. It's like a really good, just classic rom-com. Hits all those those themes really well. Obviously Clark Gable is unbelievably charismatic and handsome in this movie, which is always good. And I really liked Claudette Colbert as Ellie. I thought she was she did a great job, and she was also beautiful too. So they really hit off of each other really well, I felt.
Well, I gotta point out, this is the only movie we've watched from the 1930s. This is like right after sound in movies became a thing.
Right.
We've only watched movies from the 40s and 50s. It's like a completely different game.
Right. Which I never had really like picked up on. I kind of was just like, oh, anything before like the 60s is just like an old movie. They're all in that old movie bag, and they all seem kind of the same. But this one, I mean, it definitely was different. It didn't have as cohesive of like a narrative, I feel, as like Night of the Hunter, or what was that one that we watched with Audrey Hepburn where she was blind?
Wait Until Dark.
Yeah, like Wait Until Dark. Like those movies are a little older, or a little less old. They're newer, and I feel like it shows kind of. It's like Hollywood had changed over that like decade or two for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I like this movie. I don't have a lot to say about it. It honestly was just kind of like just a good old rom-com. There's like a couple scenes that I really liked. I really liked the guy when they're on the second bus who's like really fucking slimy and like trying to sell Ellie on like dating him almost or something. It was weird, but I thought that guy did a great job of being like a slimy salesman type.
Yeah.
I don't even know what was his name on here. He's fucking
Shapely.
Shapely, yeah. That guy did a great job. I really liked the guy who played Wesley as well, because he's just such a smarmy, like rich douchey guy. Like he did that role really well, I thought. Even though like the content of what he says throughout the movie is like generally pretty fine, like, but there's just something about that mustache and like the slick back hair that just makes him look really.
Well, he's got the same look as Clark Gable.
Pretty much, yeah. But like Clark Gable pulls it off and is like handsome and debonair, whereas this guy just seemed douchey. So I don't know what that says about me or the look, but
Clark Gable, his character Peter Warren, he's so cruel to Ellie, but he has good intentions.
Right. like the wording is more of a like product of the times kind of thing, I feel.
He's extremely rough around the edges, yeah.
Yeah. It's not great because obviously back then women were treated, mostly like garbage, which is fucking horrible. But I mean that obviously informs how they're going to write their characters and stuff, so.
Right. Yeah.
I really liked the guy who picked them up when they were hitchhiking, and then like the song that he sang. That guy seemed like so jovial and goofy. And this movie was like pretty goofy at times, but he definitely like stuck out to me as like almost didn't fit in the movie, but he was so like funny with his song that he sang about them that it worked for me.
I certainly liked his character's name, Danker.
Danker. That is a great name. He had such just like a jolly, happy face too. Like he smiled a couple times, and I was like, that seems like a legit smile. Like this guy isn't acting. He's just like some guy they got to like, just like he's just a friend of like one of the people who worked on the movie, and they were like, yeah, this guy's like really funny and goofy. We should just use him.
Which threw me off, like the fact that that character was just singing so jovially and just jubilantly, and then I wasn't expecting him to just drive off with their suitcase. That had me.
Maybe that was his scam. He's trying to annoy them.
I suppose.
Yeah, that could be. It definitely didn't fit with his character, but I mean that's probably why he's been getting away with it. If he's doing shit like that. So the only other thing that I really wanted to mention was that I didn't realize that sometimes they would have like bands on the bus with them. And maybe that's just something for this movie, but if they did, that's pretty cool. It'd be pretty cool to hop on a bus going to like the cities, and then like there's just a band on there playing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I guess actually maybe it wouldn't be that cool because it's going to be like some 17-year-old with his garage band or something, and it's going to be fucking horrible. But it's like the cottage core-ness of it. But that's really all I had, honestly. I didn't have a lot to say about this movie. It just was pretty good. What about you, Knack?
Yeah. I definitely adore this movie. I didn't get a whole lot of notes down, but man, going through it both the first time was a real joy. I love kind of writing along what Will was talking about. I just loved songs coming in out of nowhere. Just passengers on the bus just joining into the song of The Man on the Flying Trapeze. I thought that song was kind of charming.
That was great.
Even though it was kind of smutty. It was incredibly smutty, but
it's funny, like Joe had mentioned with the code, but like you can really notice that, like in comparison to some of the older but not this old movies like Sunset Boulevard and stuff like that.
They hint at sex in that one too.
Right. Sure. But here it's a bit more blatant.
Yeah.
And the words they're allowed to say, it seems, are a little more risque.
Yeah, I tried to write down like all the racy quotes from this movie.
Yeah, I didn't write any quotes down, but there was a few things that people said that was pretty amusing.
Oh, I'm sure I got them all.
I know I got one line that I really enjoyed in the movie. I'll probably get to it sooner or later. One thing, I feel like the scene of the breakfast scene between Peter and Ellie, I feel like somebody's talked to me about it before. And maybe I'm piecing it together because Ellie she talks about how she doesn't really understand how she's spoiled because she's been told what to do and how to do it pretty much her entire life. And then just immediately after that, Peter shows her how to dunk a donut properly. And it's like, yeah. I don't know whether he's just completely ignoring what she just got done saying or whether he's just trying to offer some direction if you're trying to teach her something. I don't know.
I think he literally couldn't stand that she does it wrong.
Right.
And he had to say it.
It just feels weird how she just gets done saying how she's sick and tired of being told what to do and how to do it. And then he just goes ahead and does this exactly what she's sick of.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like it threw me off. I feel like somebody had talked to me about that scene and how it's what he tells her isn't necessarily taken that way. But I'm don't even
But
know
he's
why my
telling
brain-
her how to live like a common man, like a salt of the earth person. She's been
Okay.
told how to be a princess all her life.
Yeah, how to be a snot rag. Yeah, I enjoyed the acting. I kind of really like Alexander, Ellie's dad.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed him. It was he at the beginning of the movie he came off as kind of a jerk, but
Yeah, he hits her.
right at the beginning of the movie, yeah, you kind of get a bad impression right off the bat. But knowing that he's not quite on board with King just marrying Ellie just for the sake of status and riches, he made a good turnaround and redemptive arc there. You were saying, like, talking about, after I read through the wiki and talking about the background and the production, it's amazing how well the movie did. I feel like it's amazing how well the movie did, considering how many people were just kind of shitting on the movie before it was even put out there.
Yeah.
Like, they struggled to get actresses for the lead actress role filled for so many times because so many actresses were just shitting on the script. And then once Claudette Colbert came on, then they changed up the script, like, just because she said so. I think, is that why I read it? It's like she read. It wasn't changed until Claudette was on board. So it's
Okay.
like,
I don't remember that. But I think that maybe this movie sucks as a script, but it really comes alive with the delivery of the actors. I think it might be all in their delivery, and you wouldn't know if it's great just reading it.
yeah. Just overall, pretty much enjoyed. Kind of knew I was in for something when when Peter and Ellie are on the first bus and kind of fighting over the seat, and it's just I couldn't wait to get into how they ended up to getting into more interaction between the two after just the rocky start that they have between each other.
Yeah.
I was just genuinely ready to see where it went, and I was not let down. I definitely wish I took more notes on this, and I wish that I had put down the movie a second time so I could get more notes and stuff like that. But overall, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Jeff up next.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't find this movie as charming as I think you guys did, but there's a lot of tropes that come with rom-coms that just kind of really bounce off me as a whole. It kind of turn me off from the whole genre. I feel like in a lot of movies like this, the male love interest is kind of a jack-off. And especially in the beginning part of the movie, he kind of is. Like, I think about that scene I think it's on the train where he puts up the wall to Jericho and she's on the other side just like trying to mind her own business, and he's just pestering the ever-loving shit out of her. And it's like played to be like, he's just being playful and fun and like trying to get her to open up. But like, if I had to sit next to that guy, I would tell him to fuck right off. Sitting next to him for 5 minutes, he's like, "Who's scared of the big bad wolf?" It's like, bro, just knock it off. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Like, and
Not exactly just you. It's neither of the lead characters are honestly that likable. It's just I was more interested in seeing how they interact between each other. But yeah, no, it's very difficult to actually like either of these characters up throughout the entire movie. Anyway,
yeah, I mean, the performances were fine, but I just didn't like what they were performing, which I think definitely has something to do with the script as well. I think I would have to agree with Joe there, that they really did the best they could with what they were given. I kind of like the premise, but I've seen so many movies that have spawned off of this one that to come to this one, I'm coming to this one after seeing all of those. So it's just kind of worn out for me.
Well, that's okay.
I don't really have much notes outside of that either, to be honest. It was a movie. I didn't hate it. I didn't like it. It was just kind of middling for me.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear more about what you think when we talk about like in the context of a super old movie, like has this movie aged terribly, difficult to watch, easy to watch? But I just realized I never said my initial thoughts. Obviously, I think this movie's great. I think it holds up. I really like the zany style of humor in this, like the hitchhiking scene. I think that is just pure comedy. It's like a cartoon.
Yeah,
I'm a
It's
big
Joe,
almost-
had you seen this film before this?
yeah, I've seen this.
Okay.
I was just gonna say it's almost Three Stooges esque at a few times.
Sure, yeah. I'm a big I like the piggyback dialogue. That just cracks me up. I think that's really funny. And I don't know if you guys feel this way about some old movies, but I just like seeing the differences between the modern times and the old times. Because this movie, it's so old. No one who is involved in this movie is alive. I'm just gonna say that right now. I'm not gonna ask you guys that. So when they talk about things like, sending a telegraph collect or taking a phone call and reversing the charges, it's all stuff that no one says anymore. And I think that a movie like this is sort of like a living document of the past. And I don't know.
Totally get that.
I find that there's more value in it, or at least a different type of value in some old movies than when they were made. Like people at the time didn't think, "Oh, that's neat how they use a candlestick telephone," because to them it was just a telephone. Yeah. So my first question, I don't know if you guys have answers for this or if you burnt it all, everything you have to say about it already. But like I said, this movie was super influential on the romantic comedy genre in general, movies in general.
I definitely read into the influences on the wiki.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. That's interesting stuff to see. I don't know if you wanted to.
No, I'll ask you. I got a little more to say about this. This movie was so influential that it affected the economy in two different ways. Single women started taking the bus more often, and men stopped buying undershirts because Clark Gable, when he takes off his shirt, he's bare chested. So sales plummeted for undershirts.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But other than that, what other ways do you think this movie is influential? You can be general or specific or whatever.
I mean, just from like a overall theme standpoint, if rom-coms weren't exactly a thing before this, I mean, obviously this is like pretty quintessential rom-com territory.
Yeah, there was other sort of romantic comedy movies, I'm sure, because this is like 7 years into talking movies, but this is probably the first to do it so well and to sort of set the template.
And get all those rewards, I'm sure that helped too. Or
Yeah.
awards, I should say, yeah.
I definitely, before I read up on the influence section of the Wikipedia, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't think about Warner Brothers or Looney Tunes when I hear names like Bugs and Doc anywhere,
Right.
and that's initially what I was thinking of what I thought of when I heard Shapley call Gable's character Doc up on a couple times, I believe, and
Yeah.
then I see that it's had at least a little bit of influence towards the development of Bugs Bunny.
Right. The guy Friz Freeling, who created Bugs Bunny, was a big fan of this movie. I think the scene where Clark Gable is talking and chewing a carrot at the same time probably was pretty influential. But that might have been the moment when Bugs Bunny was created, when that guy saw this scene.
Ooh. That'd be kind of cool.
It would be. And I feel like there is sort of like in the way in cartoons, they'll suspend real life logic to have a joke logic work, if you know what I mean. Like when they're hitchhiking, all those cars just happen to drive by and none of them stop. And then when she does it, just one car, there's one perfect car and it stops. That's sort of like, it's sort of like a joke logic. Like there's no way that would happen. That's something you would see in a cartoon.
That scene was pretty funny too.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of tropes that you can see that were started in this movie that kind of carry over into many rom-coms after the fact.
Absolutely. I think the whole trope of like a wealthy, affluent young lady who likes a blue collar guy probably owes something to this movie, like Titanic. Or
She's a little bit stuck up and full of herself because of her upbringing, but him and his wily man ways teach her to open up and
yeah,
be the kind of woman you want to sleep with, you know?
Jesus Christ.
I mean, listen, the movie said it first, not me.
Yeah, you're just repeating what the movie said. It was the 30s. Come on.
I mean, that would be accurate if the trope didn't carry to present day.
Yeah. We live in a bad timeline.
I don't know. I don't mind that trope that much.
What, sexism?
No, I didn't know that's what we were talking about. I meant like social classes. I don't know, commingling.
Oh, like Prince and the Pauper kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's like a good classic theme for sure. It typically works. I mean, it's probably overplayed now, but
I feel like the marriage scene at the end of The Graduate, if you've ever seen that, probably owes something to this movie.
I haven't. But I will take your word for it, Joe.
Okay.
I was having difficulty when Ellie's father, Alexander Andrews, excuse me, when Ellie's dad is walking her down the aisle, and as he's walking her down is when he's revealing how much he thinks she's making a mistake by marrying King. It's like you couldn't have brought all this up just from the archway. Like it's all happening as we're walking. And I get how it adds tension. It adds a little bit of tension to that scene and how he's doing it. I was just like hands on top of my head, like, why are you bringing this up as you're walking towards the stage? But he's also setting it up to just give her a perfect escape. So it's easily forgotten and forgiven.
And now we have that good trope of people, leaving on the marriage altar.
Yeah.
It's classic.
So did you guys think that this movie was difficult to watch, being 90 years old and somewhat dated?
Not at all.
I think it may I don't know if I'm accurate in thinking this. I have trouble in old times like this when customers refer to merchants as boy. I really am not on board with that. It feels like a racist slur every time I hear it, regardless who you're saying it to.
Yep.
That's the one first thing I have to say that doesn't age well in any movie is referring to the cigarette vendor as boy or any vendors like that. Yeah.
I never noticed that, but yeah.
I'm never on board with that if I hear it in an old movie or whenever. That's something that did not go down well.
I gotta stop saying that to my cigarette vendor.
Hey, you boy.
And of course,
Give me some cigs.
the way women were treated back then wasn't very pleasant either. So
I feel like, yes, Peter Warren does tell her father that she deserves a sock on the jaw every day, even if she doesn't deserve it. But I feel like he's all bluster. And he says, like, he does some pretty bad things. He takes her purse and says, "You're on a budget now." He spanks her. He sings "I'm Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf" on their first night together. I mean, Jeff's right. Like, he does seem like a creep. He does seem cruel. But his intentions are good, I guess. And it's all of the times. And I don't know.
What were his intentions for the first good chunk of the movie? Because
he says just to get the money, just to get the story.
Right, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, he initially his main goal was to get the story of the marriage and the.
Oh, but he also mentions that he loved another woman once. I think he's just putting up a hard shell. I think he wants to fall for her, but he knows about King Wesley.
Is King Wesley actually a king?
I think that's his name.
He's just some rich douchey type.
Yeah, and funny enough, when we first are introduced to Peter Warren, he's in the phone booth telling his boss off, and then all the other guys call him Prince.
Oh yeah, I did like that scene. I thought Clark Gable's drunk acting was actually pretty entertaining.
I like him a lot. Yeah. Go ahead, Nick.
He's so charismatic.
I thought Ellie also put on a tough demeanor. Even though she said she would trade places with a plumber's daughter at any moment, but yet she can't wait in line for the shower, and she's just kind of stuck in the way she was raised.
Well, she didn't know. I think she didn't know that there's a line for the shower because she's been so sheltered.
I suppose. I guess I didn't consider that. But also,
But she also said to the bus driver, "Oh, they'll wait for me."
yeah, yeah, just so entitled. And also the scene where they're sleeping on hay, and she's like, I can get by without you just fine. And then she looks back, and he's not there, and she starts bawling and just could barely handle it. Could barely handle not seeing Peter there.
Yeah.
But again, like, honest and true-hearted, honest and bland characters just aren't interesting. So I like how both Peter and Ellie just have these two different sides to themselves weighing on each other. Back to the hey sleeping scene. I got a good chuckle out of Ellie getting the hunger scared out of her. That was a great joke. That was a very well set up joke. I love it.
And that's like another example of like the Looney Tunes logic, because Peter just says that to her just to say something. There's no real logic to you can't be scared and hungry at the same time. But then that's her actual experience, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's total nonsense. But it does seem to work in the context of the movie. It's definitely pretty funny, and it's not like that's kind of one of the things about these older movies, right? Like, it's really hard for me to get pulled out of these older movies, and I think it's just for me because they're old, which is kind of a lame way to look at it. But I mean, I don't know. There's something about old movies that just grounds them more. Probably because they're all fucking real effects and everything for the most part.
Oh yeah.
But just as far as the question goes, yeah, I didn't find it that difficult to appreciate the film. I mean, there was some cringe moments. There's like a couple fucking lines that are no good, and obviously the portrayal of women in these old movies is going to be pretty rough. But if you can look past that, or besides all that, there's just like a good rom-com here, basically, with two pretty charming actors doing their thing. So,
and even if you can't get past it, like there's no use in trying to make this movie better by getting rid of any of those lines. Like, this is it's a document to sexism, if that's what it is.
Yeah, it's an important historical document when it comes down to it. I mean, and not to get political with it, but this is why censoring is so... It's important that things like this aren't just censored because now they make people feel bad. Like, yeah, that's good. We should watch this movie and feel bad when they're abusive towards the women, or saying things like boy to, like the cigarette seller, like any of that kind of shit. You should watch it. You should feel bad about it, but then you can just internalize that and, learn from that. It's not something that should be hidden away from public eyes and stuff until we forget, and then, oh, look, we're right back where we started.
Yeah.
Florida. What?
I got some good quotes from this movie.
Ooh, hit me with them quotes, Joe.
Some very racy stuff. I mean, Peter, he says out loud, and there's a cop next to him. He says, "Remember me? I'm the fella you slept on last night."
Yeah. That was a good line for sure.
Shapley says, I mean, everything he says could be in here, but he says, "Shapley's the name. That's the way I like him."
Oh man, that's right.
Yeah. Such a slimy fucking line.
What's the other line he says? Like, there's nothing like a cold mama. When she gets hot, boy, she sizzles.
Yeah. Oh god.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Gross.
I mean, you can't say that nowadays.
No. I'm pretty sure you couldn't say that back then either.
That's true.
That guy got his shit rocked a few times by some women.
And that is one of the more subtly sexist scenes in the movie, because what does Peter do? He says, "That's my wife." And suddenly he cares. Like, he respects him, but not her.
Yeah.
Like, she tells him no. Yeah. I think that's where the movie is more sexist than what anything Peter does.
Agreed.
But
Yeah.
that's just my opinion. Another good quote from Clark Gable: "Perhaps you're interested in how a man undresses as he's undressing." And I don't know if this is racy, but I just thought it was kind of funny. I was wondering what makes dames like you so dizzy. I mean, that's what he thinks about her. She's dizzy.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of sexist, but I don't know. It's using a word that no one says anymore. So I don't.
Yeah, is that one of those old-timey phrases
Yeah,
or something?
dizzy.
If there was a lot of that in this movie, which was cool. Like I like that kind of shit.
I my favorite pretty much the only quote I took down was Alexander Andrews as he's talking on the phone with King Wesley after the annulment goes through. He says, "Try not to fall out of any windows." I love that. I really did.
Wait, what does that mean? I didn't even get that. Does that mean commit suicide or?
I guess, yeah, just don't die. I mean, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It does sound really threatening, like somebody could just push you out of a window at any moment. But yeah, he was like, "I'm not complaining. It was chump change. That was a cheap price to get you off my daughter's back." I really liked Alexander a lot. I really liked him a lot.
Yeah, he was great.
And $100,000 in 1934.
Oh, bro.
He must really love her. There's one other thing I just wanted to hit on. Will, you just hit on this, but like the lingo being dated, you said that doesn't affect you. I also don't think it does because it's all in the proper context. Like even if you don't know what an autogyro is, you're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, that when that fucking weird plane helicopter came over the horizon in that scene, I fucking died, dude. I was like, what in the fuck is this shit? I did not expect that for what, an auto gyro or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Auto gyro, yeah.
Auto euro.
Or maybe auto euro. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, what a pompous ass. landing at his own wedding in a fucking
For real
cop-out.
though. What a douche. But like I said, like throughout the whole movie, like he never even says anything that's like douchey. Really, he's just like, "Oh yes, I love your daughter," and shit like that. But then
He should have
I
been
don't
more
know.
douchey.
Everybody who
Yeah.
he should have been more douchey because everybody who just looks at him is like, "What a fucking douche canoe this guy
Yeah.
is."
He should have been like the guy in Titanic that Rose is dating.
Oh yeah.
As the movie was going on, I kept clearly movie is leaning towards Peter and Ellie just getting closer with each other, getting to know each other. But I also just can't help but notice that she doesn't have anything nice to say about King Wesley. She mentions how they met at one point, but she literally has nothing to compliment him about, from what I remember.
That's true. Yeah.
It's because he sucks.
Well, let's get into ratings. What do you think, Will, since you went first?
I'm gonna give this. Let's go with a solid 8 out of 10. It didn't blow me away like some of the other old movies that we've watched. Not that.
Again, you're comparing it to movies from the 50s.
I know. And as I was gonna preface that. Well, post fist that. I was.
No, you were gonna post fist that.
I was gonna post fist that. So
Post fist it real good.
I'm gonna post fist the show.
They could only show that during the pre.
All right. Yeah. All right, that's it. We're having a beach off right now.
No, what? You were gonna post.
Yeah. What the hell was I actually gonna say? Yeah. It didn't like really hit me in the way that those movies did, but I don't necessarily think that was because of like the time they were from or anything. Because this movie honestly really did feel pretty similar to a couple of the other older movies we've done, like Night of the Hunter for sure. Not necessarily in like terms of content, but just like the general feel, I guess.
Yeah. The atmosphere it gives.
The atmosphere that it gives, yeah. Yeah, it just didn't really pull me in the same way that those movies did, but I still liked it. Like it still was really good, and I mean, anything with Clark Gable, I'm probably gonna love because he's just so fucking debonair. That dude, he's good. Ooh, he rustles my jimmies. But yeah, no, I'll go with an 8 out of 10. I like this movie. It was good.
What do you got, Knack?
Yeah, I'm going with a 7 out of 10.
Okay, cool.
Just mostly for the same reasons. I mean, it suffers for being from its time and its depiction of how women were treated and that kind of stuff. But and because it wasn't as captivating as other movies from those decades that we've gone through so far. But
You mean the later decades, like the 40s and the 50s?
yeah, right, yes, for yeah, forgive me. Didn't hate it, didn't maybe entirely love it, but I enjoyed watching it from beginning to end.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm really glad I can make you guys watch something this old and, you don't hate it. Like, like you do appreciate it in its context. For me, I'd give it like a 9 out of 10 in its context. Yeah, I think it's zany, it's funny, and I think Clark's really charming, yeah. Does one of you want to do the rec for Jeff because he's not here?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, Jeff gave this movie a rating of a 7 out of 10, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that.
His rating was 7 out of 10.
He's having internet problems, so he'll be back next time, folks.
Jeff's recommendation for his personal run is the Japanese animated movie Perfect Blue from 1997 by Satoshi Kon.
Yeah.
And this will
Shit,
be,
yeah. That movie is fucking amazing.
Yeah, this will be a real treat to. I know I've seen it once and I remember a little bit about it, but it's good. Yeah, this should be a very discussable movie.